Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the National Policy Dialogue on Climate Change Actions. With its emphasis on linking grassroots action to policy debate, upscaling, knowledge sharing, and science. We have an august gathering here today. My name is Srashant Patara. I'll be taking you through the various sessions. Having known, not just known, but having had the privilege of working with the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation for over 22 years now, it's a rare honor for me to be able to help you out with this session. And the reason more than anything else is the emphasis that SDC places on process. And it's our sincere hope that during the day, you'll see the outcome of a year-long process and then perhaps thousands of person-years of work that has gone into what was deliberated upon during the course of this process and where we have arrived today. Thank you very, very much for being with us. On the dais, we have with us today Professor M.S. Swaminathan, Member of Parliament and Chairperson of the M.S. Swaminathan Research Foundation. Ms. Florence Tingley-Metley, who is the Charge d'Affaires at the Embassy of Switzerland, and the Honorable Minister for Environment and Forest, Shri Jairam Ramesh. Without much further ado, I'd like to request that bouquets be presented to our dignitaries in honor of their presence. Thank you. Please. Professor M.S. Swaminathan needs no introduction, and it'll be a humbling experience to try and share with you all that he has done over the past 5 decades and more. Still, may I share with you that he's a Member of Parliament, Chairman of the M.S. Swaminathan Research Foundation, the Chief Architect of the Indian Green Revolution. Dr. Swaminathan was called a living legend by the former Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Javier Perez de Cuellar, and has been referred to as one of the 3 most influential Asians of the 20th century by the Times of India. His academic achievements are endless, far too many to elaborate here today. About 100 doctorates have been awarded for the research work that he's been done, collected in about 1,300 research papers since 1947. He's a fellow of more than a dozen national academies of different countries, including the Royal Society and the US National Academy of Sciences. Dr. Swaminathan has won many awards. To name a few, the World Food Prize, the Raymond Magsaysay Award, the Padma Vibhushan, amongst his many other achievements. May I invite you, sir, to present your welcome address. Dr. Swaminathan.
Our dynamic and visionary leader of the Ministry of Environment and Forest, Shri Jairam Ramesh, Madam Florence Tingley, Charge d'Affaires of the Embassy of Switzerland, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, we are grateful to all of you for coming together in what is the last of a series of dialogues held all over the country, different parts of the country over the last 1 year. And this is sort of summing up at the end. Obviously, it should be done at the capital of India. Even at the outset, I wish to acknowledge the continued support, interest, and commitment of the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation, because Switzerland, as you know, has always been a great supporter of environmental causes As the former president of IUCN, I know the amount of help they gave for the establishment of the World Conservation Union, whose distinguished president, Mr. Ashok Khosla, now will join us later. In Gland, in Switzerland, the Worldwide Fund for Nature is also located in Gland. The Brundtland Commission had its headquarters in Geneva. The South Commission, where our Prime Minister, Professor Manmohan Singh, played a very important role, was also in Geneva. So we want to acknowledge the continuing commitment of Switzerland over a long year. In fact, when IUCN was thought of by Sir Aldous Huxley, who was then the Director General of UNESCO, he thought of Switzerland as a logical place, and the Swiss League of Nature provided the host for the early days. So we want to thank the government of Switzerland and the STC for their commitment to the cause of environmental conservation and climate resilient development. Development Alternatives, whose founder president, Dr. Ashok Khosla, will be here. The very word development alternatives indicates it's a wonderful organization to show alternatives in development pathways so that you can choose one which is more sustainable. And Dr. Khosla has done a remarkable service. And the IUCN, he is now the current president of IUCN also. UNDP is another partner in this particular meeting. UNDP is also the coordinator of the UN Millennium Development Goals within the UN system, and is committed. One of the eight goals of UNMDG is environmental sustainability, and UNDP has playing a very important part. The other partner is Watershed Organization Trust. The very word says watershed. They have done an enormous amount of work in the conservation of water, in the sustainable management of watershed. I want to thank all of them for getting together to organize this particular meeting today, and of course the Parliament for giving the permission to hold it here. The last of the partners in this is the foundation, MS Swaminathan Research Foundation in Chennai. I want to say a word about when it was established in 89, work started in 90. The very first program was anticipated research to meet the challenges of climate change. We took two areas in 1990. One was sea level rise, because we are located in Chennai on the coast, sea level, and almost we have 25% of India's population are living within 50 kilometers from the shoreline, and nearly 8,000 or 7,500 kilometers of shoreline, the Andaman Nicobar Islands, and also the Lakshadweep group of islands. So we chose sea level rise as one, and the tsunami confirmed the need for working in anticipatory research. The other was drought, because among the changes, unfavorable changes in precipitation, changes in temperature, changes in sea level, changes in glaciers, and so on, a whole series of them, we took drought and sea level rise for developing advanced strategies. This has resulted, on one hand, along the coast, the mangrove bioshield, both the non-mangrove bioshield, which was clear, the importance of the bioshield was clear during tsunami, and also genes for seawater tolerance on the one hand, and drought on the other. The genes for seawater tolerance, there are very good rice varieties now, which are available in the breeders' assembly line, not yet gone out, because the regulatory process yet to be done. One was from mangrove genes, Avicennia marina. The other drought-tolerant genes are Prosopis juliflora. Most of you know these plants. They are a very powerful source of gene. Then the other aspect is the seawater farming. This year marks the 80th anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi's Dandi March. In fact, the minister is coming to Vedaranyam on December 26th this year with the 6th anniversary of tsunami, because while Gandhiji went to Dandi to show the seawater is a social resource and cannot be taxed by government, Rajaji went to Vedaranyam and had the same march. The seawater farming is the best method of converting seawater into fresh water through the medium of halophytes. Many times when we talk about solar energy, we do not think that the largest converter of solar energy into food is the green plant. The green plant is the largest solar energy harvesting enterprise. Similarly, the halophyte is one of the largest salt water conversion exercise. Although reverse osmosis and so on, we will be doing expensive methods, but these are important areas. And the whole work of MSRF has been the theme of this particular one, the grassroots level. In other words, working with people, working with villagers, and working with panchayats and so on. Now, one of the major aims of this series of dialogues held all over India, the last few were in Bundelkhand, in Pune, in Chennai, in Bhubaneswar, in Thiruvananthapuram, and so on, a whole series you will find from the documentation, is to really provide inputs to Sri Jairam Rameshji and the Government of India in relation to the implementation of their own national action plan. The grassroots level voices from the below to the top, local to national, national to global when he goes to Cancun shortly next month. I think this, what I call climate change management continuum. Climate change management continuum starting from the grassroots up to global bodies and national bodies and so on. So the purpose is to provide inputs for the National Action Plan on Climate Change, which has 8 well-defined missions under the Prime Minister's leadership, and how do you provide. The other one, we are very happy that we have been wanting to see that this happens. Recently when President Obama came, one of the agreements which was announced by him also in the joint session of Parliament and also by the Prime Minister is the monsoon mission. The monsoon mission, an agreement has been signed. The monsoon mission has components like climate, not only more accurate climate forecasting, but also forecasting in terms of markets, in terms of crops. What kind of crop-weather relationship. That will be a great input for us in the development of our strategies for the management of climate, the monsoon mission. And we are. The other one that President Obama announced is the Evergreen Revolution, jointly between the US and India. Evergreen Revolution, which I defined 30 years ago as increase in productivity in perpetuity without ecological harm. I was very happy when the President of the United States said we must adopt the pathway of Evergreen Revolution, both in Africa and India and the United States. So sharing of experience with nations is very important for us to get the best out of it. And as I said, I hope at the end of today, we will have a number of ideas which we can pass on to government, to the minister, for appropriate consideration for inclusion in the different missions. The Ministry of Agriculture has also produced a mission for sustainable agriculture. Some of the points we are going to discuss will be relevant to them. Monsoon risk management, I think the purpose, again, the title of this dialogue on grassroots action, and you will see some of the clips soon, is that we must really, after all, at the end of the day, at the end of the game, it is the poor nation and the poor people in all nations who will suffer from climate change. The abnormal parts of Canada and so on may benefit very cold regions because just as we say common and differentiated responsibilities, there will also be common and differentiated impact of climate change. It won't be universal. Even within the country, the wheat growing regions will suffer more in agriculture than others and so on. So the common and differentiated impact will have to be studied also. And how to link local knowledge with national and global action, what I call the continuum, this management of climate change continuum. So the present dialogue is based on extensive field experience. Last 5 years, STC has been supporting a project which is implemented jointly with AFPRO, whose distinguished leader, Mr. Manovalan, is here, and in Rajasthan, in the arid regions of Rajasthan and of Andhra Pradesh. So largely, enormous amount of work has been done on the management of local level impact of climate change in 2 semi-arid areas, one in arid and semi-arid in Rajasthan and semi-arid in Andhra Pradesh. Then, as I said, regional workshops have been held, And we are grateful to the Television Trust for Environment, which has done a wonderful job for BBC in the environmental area for recording the voices from grassroots. You will see small clippings from that one, but you can also see the whole one, those of you are interested. Now you will find that the dialogue says linking grassroots action to policy debate, which we have discussed, upscaling, knowledge sharing, and science. Being a scientist, I want to say a word about what is it between the grassroots and science. How do you influence grassroots knowledge, influences science? As I said earlier, if you want to really use grassroots knowledge, the scientific methodology must be, in addition to anticipatory research, which I mentioned, must be participatory research. Participatory knowledge management, participatory breeding, participatory research, jointly with the local people, so that the priorities are given by them. For example, yesterday in another purely a technical meeting, I indicated how you can combine pre-breeding and participatory breeding. Pre-breeding by very advanced institutions, advanced technological institutions, which provide genes, specific genes for different purposes. Participatory breeding by local communities, so that genetic diversity and genetic efficiency are both combined together. It is important to have diversity because genetic homogeneity means more genetic vulnerability to pests and diseases. And this is why we emphasize very much on getting the grassroots level knowledge as a feedback to the research system, ICAR, ICMR, ICSAR, and so on, some of whose director generals will be with us. Because ultimately, Gandhiji used to say, Gram Swaraj is the pathway to Purna Swaraj. Unless we start looking at the problems of the villages and their own self-reliance in managing these affairs. Some of you might know that one of the great success stories in Africa, in the WARDA, the West African Rice Development Association, is what called NERICA, New Rices for Africa. It exemplifies exactly what I am saying. New Rices for Africa was a cross between glaberrima and sativa, developed by scientists, given to farmers, and the farmers developed a number of local varieties. They are called the New Rices for Africa. There's not a single variety. It's all location specific, adapted to local condition, local water availability, and so on. This kind of approach will become more and more important when we start looking at how to manage climate change. Finally, may I say a word about our chief guest today, Shri Jairam Ramesh. I know he has been one of the most articulate, apart from he combined an articulate expression of policy and its implementation. It's not there is no gap between the two, action and also analysis. You know, we say analysis, first is awareness. Awareness leads to analysis. Analysis should lead to action. Many times we stop at awareness and analysis. Publications are made, books are made. The other day, I was at the 60th anniversary of the CFTRI in Mysore, Central Food Technology. I was fascinated by the message of Jawaharlal Nehru to CFTRI in 1950. He said, I know you will produce a lot of books and publications, but I want to see your work improving the food processing industry and value addition to primary products in villages. You must judge your work by that yardstick. So I think under the leadership of Jairam Ramesh, many of these greening of India, and he played a very key role. Because I was in Copenhagen, I knew he played a very key role in getting the Copenhagen Accord put together, although it was not a legal commitment, but nevertheless an expression of commitment on the part of some of the leading nations of the world. So thank you, Mr. Ramesh, for being here. Once again, Madam Tanguli, thank you and for your country, what you are doing. Thank you all for coming. I see all the leaders here, the head of WFP. They have also used food as an instrument for environmental protection, environmental regeneration. Thank you all for your coming today, and I hope you will enjoy the discussion.
Thank you very much, Dr. Swaminathan. The National Policy Dialogue on Climate Change Actions has, during the course of 2010, derived an immense amount of strength from voices from the ground, from people who are, by any reckoning, perhaps the most likely to be affected by climate change, and certainly the most vulnerable in many ways that existed before we began to talk about climate change. To give you a glimpse into the voices from the ground, we have a 3-minute video clip which we'd like to share with you now.
साल को भी रिकॉर्ड टूट रहा है, सुन रही है, लेकिन जब से हम लोगों ने होश संभाला है तब से आज तक गर्मी ज्यादा पड़ रही है।
हर का काम हमारे कमी से मौसम तो बदले भी
बहुत अच्छी बारिश होती थी, लेकिन उसके बाद में धीरे धीरे हर साल बारिश का कुछ तालमेल नहीं रहा है और बाद में कम ज़्यादा बारिश होने लगी और उसका जो सीज़न है वो भी चेंज होने लगा है। कभी भी रॉन्ग सीजन में भी बारिश गिरने लगी।
8-10 साल के पहले बहुत बरसात होती थी और अभी कभी भी बरसात होती है, जैसे कि अभी बरसात के दिन नहीं है तो भी बरसात होती है।
पानी चाहिए तब पानी आता है, जब नहीं चाहिए तब पानी आता है, तो उससे बहुत सारा नुकसान होता है।
हम लोग तो जो नवंबर दिसंबर में जनवरी में पानी गेहूं को देना पड़ता है, जनवरी फरवरी, उससे पानी की कुताई गर्मी की तो होने वाली है।
अगले साल भी पानी कम था और हारण वो पक्की है, उसमें कुओं की मदद से पानी लाके पिलाई की, तो उधर तो गेहूं थे और इधर कुछ नहीं था।
घर पे ही अनाज कम हुए, पानी कम खेती है, कम अनाज हुए, पानी के निकुड़ा में तो कई खेती करा मानदान की करा।
खेती में तो परेशान दे जाइए, अब खेती कम पड़ेगी न, बिना लोग बाग अब ज्यादा हो गया तो जाए मजदूरी अजयपुर।
देखो बच्चे पाल लें तो ये मजदूरी भी करेंगे, कुछ नहीं कुछ तो करेंगे।
अगर पेड़ों की कमी है तो बिल्कुल पानी वर्षा कम होती जा रही है, किसी दिन ओस की तरह हो जाएगी। इसलिए अब जब तक इसको जो पेड़ों को काटते जाएंगे और मरुस्थल करते जाएंगे तो तो हम भी मरुस्थल हो जाएंगे।
अगर हमारे यहाँ पानी हो जाए तो संपूर्ण विकास अपने आप हो जाए।
करना बहुत चाहती, लेकिन वो उसके मुकाबले से ये साथ नहीं देती खेती। पहले वो कम भी किया तो साथ देती थी, कम मेहनत किया तब भी साथ देती, अब ज्यादा मेहनत करने के भी साथ नहीं देती।
तो पशु पालना तो पशु खेती में पानी में तो पशु बनू तो पशु घास का रस को खावा सके।
काबू में कुछ नहीं रह जाता है, जब पानी नहीं है तो वो उसका सब ताकत खत्म होती है।
तो यार कुछ नहीं कर सकते, उपाय नहीं है।
पहले कैसा था, टाइम पे गिरता था, अभी गिरेगा तो कम गिरता, वो टाइम पानी कम हो जाता खेती को, अभी गिरता तो ज्यादा तो नुकसान हो जाता। जब ये आवक बढ़ती तभी बाजार कम हो जाता, आगे भी कम हो जाता, इधर भी कम हो जाता। शॉर्टेज आएगा, माल शॉर्टेज होएगा, आगे माल मंगनी बढ़ती, बाजार भी अच्छा रहता, इधर भी अच्छा बाजार देता। ऐसा
जो पारंपरिक वो नहीं रही, अब फल की खेती हो रही है और जो बिजनेस बढ़ाने की खेती है वही हो रही है। टेक्नोलॉजी के हिसाब से खेती हो रही है और प्रोडक्शन बढ़ रहा है।
जिस तरह का भी विकास हुआ उस समय किसान ज्यादा संबल हुआ है, ज्यादा ताकतवर हुआ है।
संबल ताकतवर से तो सुखी हुआ है थोड़ा, जो पहले बहुत तकलीफ थी वो आज थोड़ा नॉर्मल में है।
इनकम के स्रोत से तो ताकतवर नहीं है सर,
काबू में अब ज्यादा है।
संबल तो हो नहीं सकता।